Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, when did that happen? Aging sneaks up on us all, but for men, it's not always the obvious wrinkles or gray hair that tell the story. It's the quieter, sneakier shifts that catch you off guard. Some changes are so subtle, so understated, that you might not even notice them creeping in until someone else points them out. Or worse, silently clocks your age without saying a word. And trust me, those tiny, almost invisible shifts, they're shouting your real age louder than any birthday candle count ever could. Today, we're diving deep into the signs of aging in older men that you simply can't brush off or chalk up to a bad day. We'll uncover 4 sneaky changes that reveal more about your years than you'd probably like to admit, plus a handful of extra surprises that'll make you look at yourself differently. Stick around till the end, because we're going to cover a lot of ground, from the way your body moves when you're not paying attention, to the secrets your skin's been hiding in plain sight, to the tiny tells in your voice or energy that you might have ignored. Why should you stay? Because by the time we're done, you'll know exactly what to watch for, and you might just catch a glimpse of how these little clues could hint at bigger things worth addressing. Aging's a mystery. We all unravel, and this is your front row seat to figuring it out. You wake up one morning, stretch your arms overhead, and there's a creak in your knees you've never heard before. A faint, almost shy sound that catches you by surprise. It's not loud, not some dramatic groan that stops you in your tracks. But it's there, lingering like your joints decided to start a conversation without asking your permission first. As men get older, the way they move shifts in ways that are so easy to miss at first. You might not even think twice about it until it becomes a pattern. Maybe you're not sprinting up the stairs like you used to, back when 2 steps at a time felt like nothing. Or you take an extra second to stand up from the couch after a long day, your body hesitating just a beat longer than it once did. It's not about being weak or out of shape. It's about stiffness creeping in, slow and steady, like an uninvited guest settling into your bones. Your cartilage, that soft, cushy stuff between your joints that keeps everything gliding smoothly, starts wearing down over time, thinning out after years of walking, running, and carrying you through life. Think of it like the tread on an old tire. It's still rolling, still getting you where you need to go. But it's not as smooth or quiet as it was when it was fresh out of the shop. And here's the kicker. People notice, even if they don't. Say it out loud. A younger guy bounds around with a spring in his step, all energy and ease, while that subtle hesitation in your stride, the way you pause before stepping off a curb or wince just slightly getting out of a car. It's a billboard announcing the years you've racked up, whether you like it or not. Studies show that by age 60, most men lose about 10–15% of their joint flexibility, and it only speeds up from there as the decades pile on. Your knees might not be screaming, but they're whispering, and those whispers get louder with time. So next time you hear that little groan, whether it's coming from your joints or slipping out of your own mouth, pay attention. It's not just noise. It's your body telling you something about where you've been and where you're headed. Now let's talk about your hands. Yeah, your hands, those trusty tools you've been using every day without a second thought. Ever glance down at them while you're holding a coffee mug or typing on your phone and see something new staring back at you? Those knuckles looking a little more knobby than they used to. Maybe some veins popping out like they're trying to escape the surface of your skin. Your hands are one of the first places aging shows up. And it's not just about the wrinkles you might expect. It's deeper, more telling than that. The skin there gets thinner as collagen, that bouncy, stretchy protein that kept you looking youthful for so long, starts to fade away, leaving your hands less plump and more fragile. By your 50s, you might notice it feels less full, almost papery, to the touch, like the padding you once took for granted has packed up and left. And those veins that seem so prominent now, they're not new. They've always been there, running under the surface, but they're more visible because the fat under your skin is shrinking, pulling back the curtain on what's beneath. It's wild how something you use every single day, grabbing a steering wheel, shaking someone's hand, lifting a grocery bag, can quietly turn into a map of your life, etched with every year you've lived. Then there are the spots, those little brown marks that start dotting the backs of your hands, souvenirs from years of sun exposure you didn't think twice about in your 20s. They're not loud or flashy, but they're there whispering, "Hey, you've been around a while, haven't you?" Funny thing is, people clock this without even realizing it. They don't have to study your hands to know. A firm handshake with smooth, thick skin reads young, full of vigor. A grip with bony fingers, visible veins, and speckled skin. That's a different story altogether. One that says experience in a way words never could. Next time you're washing your hands or reaching for something, take a closer look. What story are they telling about you? Your voice. Let's shift gears and talk about that for a minute. It's something you don't think about much, right? You open your mouth, words come out, and that's that. Business as usual. But as men age, that voice changes in ways you might not catch until someone points it out, or until you hear yourself on a recording and think, "Wait, is that me?" Ever notice an older guy's voice has a little tremble to it? Maybe a rasp or a roughness that wasn't there in his younger days? It's not just about getting hoarse after a long day or a cold. It's your vocal cords losing their stretch, their ability to snap back into shape like they once did. They're like guitar strings that don't tighten up as well anymore, loosening with time and use until the tune's just a little off. After 60, the muscles around your larynx, the voice box that's been your megaphone all these years, start to weaken. And the chords themselves get less elastic, less taut, less able to hit those clear, steady notes you took for granted. You might not hear it in your own head, where your voice still sounds mostly the same, but others do. A slight wobble when you're tired, a softer tone that doesn't carry like it used to, or even a pitch that's not as steady as it once was. It's subtle, sure, barely noticeable in a quick chat, but it's one of those things that pegs your age without you saying a single word about your birthday. Think about the men you've known, grandfathers, uncles, old bosses, whose voices carried that telltale quiver, that hint of time etched into every syllable. It's not something you can fake or hide easily. Your voice is a fingerprint of your years. Next time you're talking to a friend or leaving a voicemail, listen close. Really listen. That little crack or shake might be spilling secrets you didn't even know you were sharing. A quiet broadcast of the miles you've traveled. Energy's a tricky one, and it's one that hits you where you live. You used to power through a day like it was nothing. Work all morning, hit the gym after, then head out for late-night plans with the guys, no sweat, no problem. Now, by 3 p.m., you're eyeing the couch like it's calling your name, tempting you with promises of a quick nap you swear you don't need. It's not laziness, and it's not that you've given up. It's your body slowing down on the inside, shifting. Gears into a lower speed you didn't sign up for. Testosterone, that fuel that kept you revved up and raring to go in your 20s, starts dipping after 30. About 1% a year, give or take, a slow leak you don't feel at first. By 50 or 60, that drop adds up, and it's not just a number on a lab report. It's a real tangible change in how you feel. You're not crashing, not falling apart, but you're not buzzing with that same restless energy either. Maybe you skip the pickup basketball game with the guys, telling yourself it's just one night, or you pass on that extra project at work because you'd rather save your steam for the weekend. People see it too. They notice when you're not the first one jumping into action anymore, when you're pacing yourself instead of charging ahead. And here's the science behind it. Lower testosterone messes with your muscle mass, your stamina, even your drive. So even if you feel fine in your head, your body's quietly waving a white flag, asking for a break you didn't used to need. It's not a dramatic collapse. No one's carting you off in a stretcher, but it's there, a steady shift that creeps into your days and nights. Friends might not say it, but they sense it. The guy who used to lead the charge is hanging back. A little more these days. It's one of those changes that screams older without you even realizing it's happening. a silent signal broadcasting from the way you move, or don't, through the world. Let's zoom in on your face for a second, but not the big, obvious stuff like crow's feet or laugh lines. Everyone expects those, and they're old news. It's the tiny shifts, the ones you don't see coming until they're staring back at you in the bathroom mirror one morning. Ever catch your reflection and think your eyes look smaller somehow, like they've shrunk into your face? They're not actually shrinking, but the skin around them is changing, pulling a fast one. On you, eyelids get heavier as the fat pads underneath thin out, drooping just enough to weigh them down, while gravity, relentless as ever, tugs everything south bit by bit. Same goes for your cheeks. They lose that full, tight look you had in your prime because the fat under your skin melts away over time, leaving behind a hollower version of what used to be. By your late 40s, that hollowing starts to set in, and by 60, it's noticeable if you're looking for it, turning your face into a quieter, leaner shadow of its younger self. Your jawline softens too. The bone itself doesn't change much, but the padding around it, the muscle and fat that gave it that sharp edge, starts to fade, rounding out what was once chiseled. It's wild how these little tweaks add up, transforming you in ways you don't feel day to day, but can't unsee once you notice. Someone glances at you and doesn't think wrinkles or old, they just sense seasoned, like your face has settled into its story. And here's a weird one to chew on. Your nose and ears? They keep growing, not by much, but enough that the proportions shift over time. Cartilage never stops stretching and expanding, even when the rest of you is slowing down, so your features start to look just a touch exaggerated compared to the you of 20 years ago. It's like your face is rewriting itself, page by page, chapter by chapter, and you're the last one to read the draft. Take a good look next time you're shaving or brushing your teeth. What's changed that you haven't named yet? Posture's another quiet giveaway, one that sneaks up so gradually you might not clock it until someone else does. Picture a young guy standing tall, shoulders back, chest out, owning the space around him like he's got all the time in the world. Now think of an older man, maybe a slight hunch in his upper back, a lean forward you can't quite place, a silhouette that's softened around the edges. It's not always a full-on stoop, not some cartoonish slump that screams ancient. Sometimes it's just a rounding in the shoulders, a subtle tilt that settles in over years. Your spine's been hauling you around for decades, through long days at desks, heavy lifting, late nights, and everything in between, and it's tired, worn out in ways you don't feel until you see it. Discs between your vertebrae compress, over time, losing their bounce, while the muscles that hold you upright weaken, letting gravity win a little more each year. By 70, most men lose about an inch or two of height, and it's not just a number on a doctor's chart. It's how you carry yourself, how you fill a room. You might not notice it in the moment, standing in line at the store or walking the dog, but others see it. That subtle slump, that slight forward lean, it says, "Time's been here," louder than any gray hair ever could. And it's not just about looks. Poor posture messes with your breathing, making each inhale a little shallower. Your balance, throwing you off just enough to notice, even how confident you seem to the world around you. Crazy how something you don't think about, how you stand, how you hold your head, can spill the beans on your age without you uttering a single word. Next time you're out and about, catch yourself in a window reflection or ask someone to snap a candid shot. What's your back saying when you're not looking? Sleep's a sneaky one too, and it's one that hits you right in the routine you thought you had locked down. Remember crashing for 8 hours straight, head hitting the pillow and lights out until the alarm, waking up ready to roll like you'd just charged a battery? Now you're lucky if you string together 6 without a bathroom break interrupting the night or a random 2 a.m. stare at the ceiling, wondering why your brain decided it's time to think about nothing. As men age, sleep patterns shift. Less deep, restorative sleep that leaves you refreshed, more light sleep that's easy to break, more waking up for no good reason at all. Your brain's melatonin production, the chemical that tells your body it's time to shut down, drops off as the years go by, leaving you tossing and turning more than you'd like. And your bladder, it's not holding out like it used to, sending you shuffling down the hall when you'd rather be dreaming. By 60, a lot of guys deal with this, and it shows, not just in how you feel, but in how you look and move through the day. Bags under your eyes that won't quit, a little drag in your step that coffee can't quite fix. People pick up on it, even if they don't say it out loud. You might not announce, "I slept bad last night," but your face does the talking. For you, etching the evidence into your skin. And here's the kicker. Poor sleep doesn't just leave you groggy, it speeds up other aging signs, like less energy to power through, slower recovery from a long day, even more lines carving their way across your forehead. It's a cycle that's tough to break, a feedback loop where one restless night feeds into the next, and it's one more way your body's quietly clocking the years without your permission. Think back to your last rough night. How did it show up in your day, and who else noticed before you did? So where does this all leave us after peeling back these layers? These signs, stiff joints that creak like an old floorboard, thinning hands that map out your decades, a wobbly voice that's lost its steady edge, fading energy that keeps you on the sidelines, a shifting face rewriting its own rules, slumping posture bending under time's weight, restless nights that leave their mark. They're not loud or in your face. They don't barge in with a megaphone or a flashing neon sign that says you're old. But they're there, stacking up slowly, telling a story you might not even know you're sharing with every step, every word, every glance in the mirror. Aging's not just about the calendar ticking over another year. It's these little whispers your body lets slip, these quiet confessions that pile up until they're impossible to ignore. And here's the wild part. Spotting them isn't just about vanity or clinging to youth. It's about knowing what's happening under the hood, getting a heads up on the machine you're running. Some of these, like stiffness in your joints, or that dip in energy, tie to bigger stuff like heart health, muscle loss, or even how long you'll stay mobile, that you can actually do something about if you catch them early enough. Think about that for a second. What if the creak in your knees isn't just a nuisance, or the sag in your cheeks isn't just a cosmetic quirk? What if they're trying to tell you more than just, you're old? Maybe it's a nudge to move more, to stretch those joints before they lock up, to eat better to keep your energy from tanking, or just to listen to yourself a little closer than you have been. Aging's inevitable, a train we're all riding, but how you roll with it, how you steer it, how you keep the engine humming, that's up to you, and it starts with seeing the signs for what they are. So here's the question to chew on as we wrap this up. What's the first sign you're going to check for tomorrow morning when you roll out of bed? And what are you going to do when you find it?